When we think about the dual nation, I'm sure we're thinking about two different countries and far away from each other. Well, this island in Central America has two European countries in one very tiny piece of land. There's three things I want to share with you about my recent trip, so welcome to San Martin. So I spent time in St. Martin just before the pandemic, and there's some things I want to share with you today that go beyond the usual don't miss this if you go. But before that, I just want to say that I'm truly impressed by St. Martin because tragedy struck in September 2017. It's been more than 3 years from Irma, and even though there's still some work to be done, the island looks absolutely stunning and people are very nice there. As always, I share my experience in 3 parts. Saint-Martin in French or Sint-Maarten in Dutch. The island has an area of 87 square kilometers or 34 square miles. It's just such a small island and it's divided between 2 nations. The northern part, Saint-Martin, is a French one and occupies about 60% of the island, and this is technically an overseas collectivity of France, or in French, Collectivité d'Outre-mer, or COM. The main city is Marigot. The southern part is Sint-Maarten. This is a Dutch one and occupies the remaining 40% of the island, and this is one of the 4 countries that form the Kingdom of the Netherlands. The other 3, Netherlands itself, Aruba and Curaçao. The main city is Philipsburg. The population of the entire island is around 83,000 people, with 43,000 living on the Dutch side and 40,000 on the French side. Also, English is the most commonly spoken language, but for obvious reasons we can speak Dutch and French too. Okay, now the boring part. Literally, it's just a minute to share context about how everything started and why they live in peace today. The island was first settled by a group of indigenous people called Arawak, and then followed by another group called Caribs, who gave the island the name Land of Salt. And centuries later, the Europeans came, and in 1493 it was claimed for Spain by Christopher Columbus on his second trip, who named it the island, or let's say in Spanish, La Isla de San Martín. During the 17th century, there was a lot of rivalry between the Dutch and French for the control of the islands and its salt mines. Years later, in 1648, the 2 countries signed the famous Treaty of Concordia, which divided the island in 2, so they could live in a peaceful way. In this context, the locals have a very interesting folk tale as to how they defined the boundary. Each side selected a walker. The 2 walkers were then placed back to back, and then they started to walk on opposite directions, sticking to the shore. They were not allowed to run. They met up again on the far side of the island, and the line between the start and finishing points became the frontier. As we can see, the French walker covered more ground than the Dutch. And if we ask the French and the Dutch, they'll share a different explanation. In any case, this didn't really matter, because the truth is that both the boundary and the island were still disputed for many years. So only when they signed the Second Treaty of Paris, then the Dutch and French came to a final agreement on the dividing line. The way they make money these days is really with the tourism. They have over 1 million visitors every year, or at least before the pandemic. More than 80% of the workforce in the island are in the hospitality industry. This is one of the most interesting activities we've done in the whole Caribbean, and it's really 2 steps. Number 1, all the way up to the top of the mountain on a chairlift, which is the Sky Explorer, and then fly back down on the world's steepest zip line, which is called the Flying Dutchman. But before that, what's interesting to say is that this place was a plantation house built like 300 years ago and tells the story of Trace Wilson, who was born into slavery on the property in 1818, and his descendant Millie Wilson, who purchased the property to educate current and future generations about the conditions of plantation's life, as well as the customs, traditions, and history of the island itself. So after that, we walked to the Sky Explorer, and if you're like me and enjoy some adventures, then it's very simple to love the ride that takes us to the top of the mountain. It's literally a chairlift ride 1,125 feet up to the highest point, and it takes 25 minutes. The cool thing is that once we arrive, we can see views of not just St. Martin, but neighboring islands such as Saba, Nevis, and Kitts, St. Barts, and Anguilla. So after appreciating the panoramic views, it's time to fly down the mountain on the Flying Dutchman, the world's steepest zipline. I compared this a bit to the experience in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil when I jumped. Actually, I have a video in case you want to check it out. The difference here is that in a way we were very secure in a chair, going quite fast but still secure. And then at the end, when we thought the ride was over, the acceleration was crazy. In Brazil, it was about jumping and hoping that the hang gliding was gonna work. But my feeling in those few seconds before were I'm literally 5 seconds away from my death. At the end, these are two different experiences, but similar in a way that these are extreme adventures. After a long day doing different activities, it might be wise to take some rest, and the white sand sounds like a great option. So that's exactly what we did. The good thing is that St. Martin is in the middle of a cluster of gorgeous islands, and on a clear day we can see Saba, Nevis, St. Kitts, Anguilla, and St. Barts, so we can easily hop on a ferry and head over for the day. But besides that, St. Martin has mesmerizing and pristine blue water and sunny beaches. In fact, 37 or 39 different ones if I'm not mistaken, which is a lot for such a small island. Wherever we stay, we are never too far away from the water. The bars nearby often rent chairs and umbrellas for roughly $3 to $6, and sometimes they even waive the charge if we order lunch or drinks. Even though this is a French and Dutch island, it doesn't mean that we can pay with credit card everywhere like in Europe. So cash is king here, and this is a good reminder for me for the next time they had a long walk today here. Because we focus more on activities here, we had less time for laying down. We spent some time in Phillipsburg. This was almost like 2 miles or 3 kilometers long, sandy dunes, clear water, and really nice views. Of course, we could see cruises and stuff not super entertaining for the eyes, but this was nothing compared to all the other amazing views. So when thinking of Caribbean postcards with that beautiful crystal water and white sand, then there's a high chance that we're thinking of St. Martin. And personally, this was one of my favorite places in Central America. If you like this video, you might also want to check this video over here about 3 things I didn't expect to learn in Dominican Republic. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.